Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are diving headfirst into a stack of insights about a really compelling figure in tech right now, Sam Altman, the CEO running OpenAI. And our mission, well, it's pretty straightforward. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding something quite specific, maybe even paradoxical, about how Altman thinks about success and, believe it or not, education. Because the central claim we've pulled from the sources, and it's almost hard to believe, is that this CEO running a multi-billion-dollar company is actually envious of today's Gen Z college dropouts. It just sounds
completely counterintuitive, doesn't it? The guy behind ChatGPT, someone who's, let's face it, fundamentally changed the tech landscape, is looking almost wistfully at young people taking, a big academic risk. This isn't just a quirky detail. It feels like a real window into where he thinks genuine, disruptive innovation actually comes from.
Right, and that immediately throws up the big question we need to dig into. Why? Why would someone at his level, who could basically hire anyone from anywhere, express envy for people not finishing their degrees? It suggests he sees some kind of undeniable, maybe fundamental advantage in skipping that traditional path.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. We need to get specific.
Yeah.
According to the sources, what is the reason he feels this way? What's the advantage he identified in those recent interviews?
Well, based on what he said at the DevDay conference recently, it seems to boil down to two things, really. Two essential things that are linked. First, it's just raw time. The hours not spent in class or doing coursework. Obvious enough. But the second one, that's the really critical bit, the sort of cognitive driver. Yeah. He used this German phrase, geistigen Freiraum.
Geistigen Freiraum.
Okay.
It sounds nice, but coming from the CEO of OpenAI, it must carry a lot more weight, right? Can we go a bit deeper on what that actually means? Because it feels like more than just, having a free Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, much more. If you look at the translation and how he used it, it's not just spare time. It's more like a lack of intellectual, debt. Or maybe obligation. Think of it like cognitive bandwidth. It's the ability to approach a problem with a truly blank slate, without that constant background noise of requirements, deadlines, the established ways of thinking that a university curriculum kind of imposes on you.
Ah, okay. So academia structures your thought.
Yeah.
Which is good for learning what's known.
Exactly. Yeah. Valuable for absorbing existing knowledge.
Yeah.
But Altman seems to be arguing that for really new disruptive stuff, you need unstructured, pure thinking time. Your mind needs freedom from having to perform for grades or, meet syllabus goals. That's what allows for maybe those radical leaps or cross-disciplinary connections, the aha moments.
And the sources really highlighted his enthusiasm about this.
Yeah.
It wasn't just some dry analysis. He apparently stressed that when you combine this pure intellectual freedom with the sheer amount of time these young founders have, well, the possibilities are so incredibly great for them to just experiment and build something completely new. Okay, but let's just maybe pump the brakes a tiny bit here. This whole successful dropout narrative, it runs straight into that classic survivorship bias problem, doesn't it? For every Sam Altman and Bill Gates, there must be thousands, maybe tens of thousands, who dropped out, didn't make it, and now maybe struggle because they don't have that degree.
Absolutely. That's the critical counterpoint, and it's crucial for context.
Doesn't formal education give you, a baseline, a network, even a safety net that most people really, really need?
It absolutely does provide those things for most people, and that's why we have to be really precise about who Altman seems to be talking to here. The analysis suggests he's focusing on a very specific type, a sort of hyper-driven potential founder. We're talking about someone whose main goal is radical disruption, someone who already has maybe an unusually high drive, a readiness to just do things.
Right, not your average student deciding if they should finish their history degree.
Exactly. For that very rare person, the time cost, and maybe more importantly, the cognitive cost of getting that degree, even a top one, might genuinely outweigh the benefits. They're making a calculation, you see. Time equals opportunity. Speed is everything. For, say, 99% of people, the degree is the foundation. But for that 1% focused purely on building something new now, the degree might feel like a delay.
That reframing actually helps a lot. So it's not a blanket drop out now message.
Yeah.
It's more like a specific observation about the conditions needed for maximum, maybe extreme innovation. And this is where it gets really compelling, right? Because he's not just speculating, he lived it. His own background backs this up.
Precisely. He speaks from direct experience.
Let's get into that. The sources confirm back in 2005, Sam Altman did exactly this. He dropped out of his computer science program. At Stanford, no less. He was what, 19?
19, yeah. And the decision seems to have been pretty immediate, pretty decisive. It really underlines that idea of prioritizing speed over the academic stamp of approval. Instead of finishing up at Stanford, he jumped straight into co-founding Looped, that location-based social app.
Looped, right. I remember that.
And this is where you connect the dots between that intellectual freedom and actually getting stuff done, getting funding. Because he put, presumably, 100% of his focus, his mental energy into building Looped. They moved fast enough to get into the very first batch of Y Combinator, the famous startup accelerator.
Wow, the first batch.
The very first. So that immediate, undivided attention translated directly into momentum and eventually real money. They raised over $30 million for Looped.
So it worked out for him. Dropping out didn't mean drifting. It meant intense, focused creation that attracted serious investment almost right away. That freedom to just pour everything into that one goal made the difference.
It seems like it. And if you trace his career path from there, you see the pattern. 10 years after Looped, he co-founds OpenAI. With people like Elon Musk, among others, his whole journey leading to where he is now, arguably one of the most influential people in tech globally, it really started with that initial choice, speed and mental space over academic structure. But, the story takes this really interesting, almost poignant twist when you look at where he is now. Sources like Fortune magazine report that despite hitting this incredible peak with OpenAI, he misses that early stage freedom. He apparently longs for the time and space to brainstorm completely new companies.
That's kind of the ultimate irony of massive success, isn't it? The very thing he built, OpenAI, is now so huge it consumes the exact freedom he used to create things like it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of trapped by his own success. Let's look at that quote about his time, because it says so much about the mental cost of running something that big.
Yeah. Quite revealing.
He said he finds it a bit sad how much OpenAI occupies his entire head, and he cannot think anymore about how to build a new startup. It's not just about being busy with meetings, is it? It sounds like there's literally no cognitive room left for that kind of, blue sky what-if thinking that sparks brand new ventures.
He's intellectually landlocked. That's a good way to put it. And what's fascinating, I think, is that his current feeling, this nostalgia, it actually serves as the strongest evidence for his original point about dropouts. His longing for those early freewheeling startup days just hammers home how much he values that intellectual freedom as the sort of fundamental fuel for creation.
And once that creation gets as big as OpenAI,
right, then the demands of managing it, the strategy, the compliance, all that necessary stuff, it just inevitably pushes out the pure invention space. It creates this strange paradox, doesn't it? The environment you need to maintain a world-changing company seems to be the exact opposite of the environment you need to think up the next one.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, Altman's not alone in this path, is he? He's part of a well-known pattern, especially in Silicon Valley. Maybe we should take a moment just to remind ourselves, and you listening, of those other huge names in tech who also chose speed and intellectual liberty over finishing their degrees. It really frames his personal story as more of a recognized strategic path, maybe?
Oh, definitely. The list is basically a who's who of modern tech history, isn't it? You've got Bill Gates leaving Harvard for Microsoft, Steve Jobs dropping out of Reed College,
Jack Dorsey left NYU before Twitter and Square.
Mark Zuckerberg famously leaving Harvard for Facebook. It's a powerful pattern.
They all seem to make that same bet. Focus and speed now over the traditional path. Can we pull out a specific example, maybe, that shows how that freedom led not just to business success, but maybe a specific kind of innovation?
Well, Steve Jobs is a great example there. Even after dropping out of Reed, the story often goes that he hung around and audited classes he was just curious about, like famously that calligraphy class.
Right, the calligraphy class.
Yeah. He talked about how that class, which had zero practical application for him then, later massively influenced the whole design aesthetic, the typography of the first Macintosh. It gave it that unique, graphically sophisticated feel that set it apart.
Ah, so that's intellectual freedom in action. Learning something not because it's required or even obviously useful, but just out of pure curiosity.
Exactly. That kind of nonlinear thinking where you connect dots between seemingly unrelated things, that's often what structured curriculum, with its focus on requirements, can accidentally squeeze out.
That really brings this whole idea of cognitive bandwidth down to earth. Makes it feel much more practical. Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. What's the core takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the sources consistently point to this. For a very specific, very rare kind of founder, someone intensely driven, the speed and, crucially, the sheer mental space you gain by just jumping straight into execution, Well, it might genuinely outweigh the security and structure of a degree.
So what does this mean for you listening right now? Whether you're, thinking about a startup or just trying to manage your own focus day to day, I think this exploration shows that success, even for someone like Sam Altman, isn't just about the external stuff, the money or the title. It's deeply connected to the intellectual space you could protect or cultivate. If your mind is constantly full, just managing things, whether it's a giant company or just your own overflowing inbox, you might simply lack the capacity for the kind of radical thinking that leads to truly new opportunities.
It really forces you to think about mental space as maybe your most valuable and definitely finite resource, doesn't it? And that leads us to maybe a final provocative thought for you to mull over, building on all this. If time and this intellectual freedom are the real currencies for innovation, well, maybe we should look hard at our own commitments. Where else in our lives are we, maybe unknowingly, trading away that incredibly valuable cognitive freedom just for structure or obligation?
Are we swapping it for too many meetings, constant digital distraction, maybe even just taking on too much good stuff that prevents us from ever finding the great?
Yeah, whether it's in your job, your side projects, how you learn.
Right.
What potential are we leaving untapped because our mental bandwidth is just full, occupied by maintenance rather than invention?
It's a really powerful question to ask yourself. Is the structure in your life right now a helpful scaffold, or has it become more of a cage limiting your freedom to think? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the somewhat paradoxical mind of Sam Altman and the maybe surprising cost of reaching the very top. We'll see you next time.